Yo, what is going on, guys? Illkillies here, and today we are going to be doing the T28 heavy tank concept review that I promised you guys. Um, this is probably one of the most unique Tier 8 or Tier 7 premiums that we're ever going to get. Um, as some of you may know, this is actually just a reward tank on the PC version of World of Tanks. So the fact that they're releasing it as something that you can buy is really interesting to me, and since they give it the title rare spotlight, like they do the rare tank spotlight thing, I highly doubt that this thing's going to come out anytime soon after this. So I highly advise that you pick it up while you can, because this thing is a fucking monster. So let's go over some basic stats here. The T28 heavy tank concept, sorry about that, has 880 hit points, which is fairly average for a tier 7 tank destroyer. I mean, it's kind of weird because I always do tier 10 tank reviews, so me talking about a different tier is kind of weird. But it does have 880 hit points, and it has 5 degrees of gun depression, which is not bad. Now, granted, it's not that good either, but the way you're going to be driving this thing, your gun depression really isn't going to be that big of a deal. So, 880 hit points, 5 degrees of gun depression, and that's pretty much it for that. So, yeah, let's get into the modules here. Oh, wait, nope. Almost started again. So, you've got a 960 horsepower engine here. Oh, wait, no, we want to talk about armor first. My bad. Okay, so this thing has quite a ton of armor in the armor department here. So, you've got 203 on the front plate here, 102 on the side, and 51 on the rear. Now, those are just the paper stats that Wargaming gives you. If you want me to go super in depth with the armor, I'll talk about most of the. We'll talk about some weak spots here first. So, as you've probably noticed and experienced firsthand, these two little machine guns on the side are actually weak spots. They're only 101 millimeters thick on both sides, but that's only if you hit like where the actual machine gun comes out of the little ball turret there. If you hit the edges of it, you will actually end up bouncing because it's like a weird angle or something like that. But the side, the boobs, as I like to call them, those are both weak spots, and you're gonna see in the replays that I have for you that there's some really easy ways to combat hiding those weak spots and stuff like that. So yeah, those two are weak spots, and then you can see those three little viewports on top of the tank there. Those three also are weak spots. They're really hard to hit though, because they are extremely small. But those are weak spots as well. Now you can see there's like that little ring above where the gun is, that little like outer rim, the little concave area right there. That area is only around 180, 190 millimeters thick. So it is pretty easy to penetrate if you're, say, like in a Tiger 1 or something like that, or just something with really high penetration. You can shoot that little rim that goes around the top of the gun where the gun swivels. And speaking of where the gun swivels, that little ring where you can see where the gun is placed on, that is only 25 millimeters thick. So you will be overmatching that with a 76 millimeter gun and above. So if by some chance you are face hugging the T28 heavy tank concept, and you are above it, you are going to want to shoot the actual swivel ring where you can see where all the like scratches and stuff are, where the gun is actually sitting on. That's where it swivels. And this gun actually does swivel quite far left and right. I think it's 30 degrees left and right. Let me check that number for you right now. But that weak spot right there, where the gun swivels, is actually a very prominent weak spot. Very easy to hit, as it is. You can overmatch it with pretty much anything. So if you do find yourself face hugging this thing, it is very easy to kill if you just shoot that little ring right there. Now, pretty much everywhere else, this thing is extremely solid. The upper plate is like 260, 270 effective. Even though that armor right there is only like 60 or 70 millimeters thick, it really just is not that thick. It's just, if you can just look at this sloping here, it's like a crazy slope. So you're not really gonna have to worry about getting penetrated there, unless of course if you're angling and they hit some weird angle right next to where the driver sits, they can penetrate that. But pretty much else, there really isn't anywhere else where they can penetrate your upper plate. And then your bottom lower plate right here that's actually where the 203 millimeters is. So that is a very, or 208 millimeters. It is actually very, very strong for a tier 7, and most tier 7 tanks don't have any chance of penetrating that. Maybe like a Tiger 1 if they have premium rounds loaded, but that's good luck. It's still pretty rough to hit. So yeah, I'm just trying to find this armor profile for you guys. But if you are trying to shoot like the tracks and go for drive-wheel shots, I found that shooting through the tracks in the side armor is extremely rough. It's a very, very strong side. Even that spaced armor covering the tracks is pretty ridiculous. It's so thick. I find if you ever have this thing side, you're almost always going to want to shoot the little machine gun ball, or where I have the little warlock thing painted. But that's pretty much it for the armor, guys. You are going to see quite a bit of how this armor works when I am able to go warrior some shots, which you're going to see in the replays. But yeah, let's get into the modules here. So you are packing a 960 horsepower engine, which is actually a very, very powerful engine for a tank this size. Now, you're going to want to keep in mind that this tank does weigh a metric shit ton. It weighs like I think it weighs like 100 tons or something like that. It's super heavy. The gun, which we'll talk about here in a second, but the engine, pretty powerful. You can get up to top speeds of around like 26, 27 kph on flat ground, so it's not that slow for being extremely heavy. You will have troubles getting up hills and stuff like that, but that's not really that big of a deal because, I mean, if you get caught out while you're going up the hill, you have a ton of armor to counteract that. So 960 horsepower engine, really good. And then we get to the track traverse speed, which is actually extremely bad. The track traverse speed is absolutely abysmal on this tank. I think it's almost as bad as the T95, if I stand corrected. It is extremely bad. Like you'll see in the replays when I'm turning, it's really bad. But the track traverse, I mean, it's not on hard terrain, it's okay, but on soft terrain and medium terrain, you're going to be turning extremely slow, and it's pretty bad. But the turret, there is no turret, so there's just the view range. Well, the gun traverse 18 degrees per second, and then the view range was just 370, which is not bad for tier 7. But then your standard 570 meter signal range for tier 7 tanks, which is not really that big a deal. So the gun on this tank with the 105 millimeter gun T5, it has 6 rounds a minute, which is actually extremely good. With my reload, it's only about 8.25 seconds, and you're pumping out 320 alpha at tier 7. That's pretty crazy. You got 181 pen on the AP rounds and 224 on the APCR rounds, which is not fantastic, but when you remember what kind of tanks are at tier 7, you've got like the IS with 175 pen, like the Panther with like 190. This is kind of like a nice middle ground for the AP rounds, and I find myself not really having to ever shoot APCR unless I get into a tier 8 game, which this thing can't see tier 9, so that's another big positive of this thing, that it has preferential matchmaking. But you see that 2.3 second aim time, which is not too bad, but then you see the 0.4 accuracy, which is probably one of the downfalls of this gun. You're going to have a lot of trouble hitting people at long distances, but if you do end up slapping on like vents, brothers in arms, and food and stuff like that, you can get it down to about 0.35, which is not too bad. But the point of a premium tank for most people is to make money, so you probably don't want to waste 20,000 silver on cola. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for the modules, and you're gonna see this gun get put to work here in the replays I have for you guys. But equipment fit, pretty simple. You got the gun rammer, gun lane drive, and vents. You could probably swap the gun lane drive for, I don't know, maybe like a spall liner, because artillery really loves shooting at this thing. Or maybe like binocs or coated optics, or maybe even repairs if you want to get your tracks fixed quicker. But I just like having the gun lane drive, just because when I play this tank, and when you're going to see in the replays, I just like to literally drive at people, and it works. So yeah, pretty much your gun rammer and vents are essential, I would say, but pretty much everything else, toolbox, coated optics, maybe even a camo net, or like a spall liner. Any of those would work fine. So that's pretty much it for the tank itself, guys. I don't know. Oh yeah, consumables. So what I run 30 20 10. This tank does get a lot of ammo, so I have never had an ammo issue with this tank, because at tier 7 there's not as many hit points to throw around as there is at tier 10. So when you have 30 shots doing 310 alpha or 320 alpha, you're not really going to be having those super long games where you have to use all 30 AP rounds or whatever. So that's pretty much it. And then you've got your standard just small repair kit, small health kit, and then a automatic fire extinguisher, which I find this thing only gets set on fire if it gets shot in the ass, so no issues there. But that's pretty much it for the garage part of this review, guys. So yeah, let's get to the replay. Alright guys, so the first replay I have for you is actually, believe it or not, a good game on Malinovka Assault. I know this is a very, very rare find that you actually see someone have a decent game on Malinovka Assault, but believe it or not, it did happen, and you are going to witness it right here. So this game I really, really enjoyed playing because this is literally what this tank is good for. This is why this tank is so good at tier 7, and honestly I think it's pretty OP, to be honest, just because there's really not gonna be that many of these driving around, as I feel like after they take it out of the store it's gonna become quite the rarity, like I know some of the premium tanks have. And I feel like this is going to be another one of those tanks that, at tier 7 you don't really have like the highest skilled players, but it's just this tank's weak spots are pretty obvious, but it's just, I don't know, just the caliber of player at tier 7 is just really not that high. So you got those first timers that just got their first tier 7 and they're playing, and then they run into one of these things and they have absolutely no idea what to do. And it's just like, oh man, there's this T28 thing, and it's like really heavily armored, and I don't know what I'm doing. Everywhere I shoot it, it bounces. And you're gonna see right here, pretty much the only thing that I think hits me is artillery this entire time that I'm down here. I'm literally the only one driving down this hill, going to die. Honestly, that's what I was expecting, was just driving down here, gonna try to warrior as much as I can, and then I was probably just gonna die. But you did see there that I wasn't actually going very slow, and then you saw there bounce 2 shots and then put a nice round into the Panther there. This gun just really isn't that bad. I mean, I know a lot of people knock on it, and I can understand why, but it's really just not that bad. But as you saw there, I was taking some shots from the right, so I ended up angling my tank to the right because I think they were just hitting my flush side, and that's really easy to penetrate. So I ended up angling the tank so that the side armor where they were shooting was a lot more angled, so they wouldn't penetrate it. And then we're gonna get going back down the slope here, and then we get a really lucky shot here, and this poor 3601H gets set on fire. And then I don't know what this guy is doing, but he doesn't have a fire extinguisher. Probably doesn't have premium time and can't afford a fire extinguisher, so I feel bad for him there. But as you can see here, I'm just literally just driving down the hill and they can't do anything. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. Just trying to find all these little nerds that are hiding in the bushes back there. So yeah, but on this map it's pretty hard to show you like what the main thing you want to do with this tank is, and you're gonna want to try to hide the side boobs, and you're gonna see in the next replay that I have for you that is crucial to making the most of this tank's armor. Just because you angle your lower plate and just the front of your tank as far as you can, and you make your side armor extremely tough to penetrate as well. So against the typical tier 7 driver, you're pretty much going to be invincible. There's always artillery, and there's always the guys that get lucky shots on your viewports or that little strip of armor above the gun. But for the most part, it's just this tank is. I feel like this tank is idiot-proof. There's really, I don't understand how you could possibly do bad in this tank just because it is so easy to use. Just because you do just end up driving at people and then you just bounce a bazillion shots. Like, I haven't taken damage since I turned my tank to the right when I was driving down a hill. It's been like literally 2 minutes since I've taken any damage. And you know, that's another thing about Malinowka Assault, is that all it takes is that one person to get all the lights, and you can actually win if you're on defense instead of everybody just sitting on the hill. But the you know, the T28, it's just, I find that it's a really fun tank. I feel like the alpha is really good at tier 7. Having 300 alpha takes off probably half the HP of most of the tanks that you're going to shoot at, you know, like the tier 6s and stuff. So, you know, like, look at that. Like, just hitting people with 300 alpha at tier 7 is pretty intense. So, it's just, it's a really nice gun. In terms of, you know, penetration, and the aim time's not too bad. You know, the accuracy could be better, but I feel like that's a huge balancing factor for this tank. You know, because this tank, the weak spots are there, but the I feel like for like I've said a couple times, I feel like the normal tier 7 player, or just the newest, like some dude that just got his first tier 7 playing, is not going to have any idea what to do with this tank when he goes up against it, because, you know, they're not acclimated to shooting at weak spots, and they don't know, they've never seen this thing before, maybe once or twice, and they didn't even see it throughout the entire battle. So when they finally go head to head with it, it's not exactly the prettiest thing for them. So, you know, if you thought that game was good in terms of like bouncing shots and warrioring people, you're gonna absolutely just have a fit when you see this next game that I have for you. So this is on the map Y Park, which, I mean, I haven't played in a long time. Ever since they took it out of the tier 10 map rotation, since the beta ended or whatever, I haven't played it because I don't usually play lower tier tanks. So this was the first time I had played it in a long time. And this is pretty much an all tier 7 game here, and you're gonna see just what I was talking about earlier about angling the hull and hiding the boobs. This is a tactic that you're gonna want to use on pretty much every map possible, because it'll increase your survivability monumentally. Just because it covers your most obvious weak spot and makes penetrating your lower plate and just the front and side of your tank that much harder. So my theory here was that I'm going to go to the over where that bridge is and get under there, and then just do this little tactic that I like to use and just hide the boobs, and, you know, just pretty much see how it goes. And you're going to see that this is probably the most fun game I've ever played in World of Tanks in a long time, to say the least. These guys just absolutely had no idea what they were doing, and it was a shit show. As you can see here, you know, the traverse speed, it is really slow. I forgot to mention that in the last game, but it is pretty slow. It will, when you do end up getting circled by a tank, you're pretty much, you sign your death certificate. There's not really much that you can do, just because it does turn so slow. It's like T90. I think it's tied with the T95 for turn speed, which is the slowest in the game. So it's pretty bad. But yeah, so you're gonna see here, I'm doing the thing here. I'm hiding the boob that is exposed on my left side by turning my tank all the way to the right and hiding it behind the hill, and then I'm hiding the right one by turning my gun all the way to the furthest left it can go. So you're gonna see me do it even more here as I hide it on the little pillar here that holds up the bridge. This is the perfect example of doing this. But as I get tracked out in the open here, I'm gonna back up and go into the go back to hiding the boob. And this is the kind of spot you want to be in right here, hiding the boob. It's perfect. You know, they can't really do anything against it. I set that guy on fire. I haven't taken any damage yet. I'm just sitting here going ham, warrioring shots. Like, still haven't taken any damage, and there's like 7 of them back there. This game was just absolutely ridiculous. You know, it was like a shooting gallery. There were so many people to shoot at, and I'm just literally sitting here, and they can't do anything to me. This game was just such an adrenaline rush. It was so cool. But this is really the power of the T28 heavy tank concept when it is top tier, and it is in a battle where, you know, the enemy team doesn't necessarily know the weak spots on this tank. Now, granted, I am hiding the easiest and most obvious ones to hit, but you know, they still can hit the turret, the little like swivel ring where the gun sits, or hit the viewport bars on the top, or the little viewports or whatever. But those are pretty tough to hit at that far of distance. But as you see here, excuse me, I haven't actually taken any damage yet, and I've just literally been sitting out in the open doing absolutely nothing, just literally sitting here. But as you can see here, the gun accuracy is not too bad. I just nailed that Tiger's cupola from like 200 meters away, and that's a pretty tough shot for a gun with .4 accuracy. So you know, the gun works, and you know, sometimes it'll let you down, but for the most part it does work. And this is a very solid gun for a tank like this. I feel that it has it really does have a leg up over most of the guns at tier 7, just because it does have that 300 alpha. So you know, here I am trying to find the gun depression. That's really the only time that 4 degrees is ever gonna screw you over. But you know, that Chiri actually did end up hitting my one of the machine gun port twice there. The first time he did in this first magazine against me. But so that guy pretty much knows what he's doing. Unfortunately for him, he you know, most of his team has fallen because I was just sitting there warrioring shots and just driving at people, because that's what this tank does. So you know, I mean, the only time that you really have to ever worry about getting penetrated by people shooting standard rounds is when you get a tier 8 game. And this tank still does extremely well in tier 8 games. I might put up a couple replays in another video of me doing work in a tier 8 game with this thing, just because the armor still is very good at tier 8, which is why I think this tank's really overpowered, because it has preferential matchmaking, which when it doesn't on PC. So you know, giving it pref I feel is very questionable in terms of keeping this tank balanced, because if you never see a tier 9 game, then your armor is pretty much going to be useful like all the time, because the T28 on the T28 tier 8 actually does have the same frontal armor profile as this tank does in the lower plate. It has that 203 or whatever it is. So I honestly, if I had to sum this tank up in like 5 words, this would be like best tier 7 premium ever. Honestly, this tank is so good, and if you haven't picked one up already, I highly suggest that you do, because you will make a metric shit ton of credits like I just did right there. And it's just, this tank is a fucking beast. So that's pretty much it for this tank review, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'm going to be probably doing another map review soon here, but that's pretty much it for this video, guys. This has been Achilles. Thank you guys so much for watching. I wish all of you a happy new year, and I'll catch you guys later.